Sleeves here with the Senior Pickleball Report, powered by TNC Network. Let's get it going. Today we're going to talk with owner of the Indy Drivers of the newly formed National Pickleball League starting this June, Phil Cohn. But before we do, if you like this content, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out the links in the description for discounts on shoes, paddles, and merch. Check out our merch page. All right, let's get to that conversation with Phil. Let's welcome Phil Cohn of the Indy Drivers ownership team to the Senior Pickleball Report. Welcome to the show, Phil.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, we start always with how, we as individuals kind of got involved in this sort of strange, goofy wiffle ball game that is just blowing up all over the planet. So give us your journey and your story about how this game, brought you into the fold, so to speak.
Well, given that description, I'm lucky I ever played. I was terrible at wiffle ball growing up. But one day in the winter, I just remembered, a number of years ago, it was cold here. And I really wanted to go exercise. And the courts where I played tennis were obviously closed. And I don't even know how I found. Well, I had a friend, actually a lady that worked here bought me a paddle.
Oh.
And I had one of these days I'm going to use that. And a buddy of mine just called me and said, we're going to go play some pickleball today. I said, hey, I have a paddle. Let me come along. And the first time I hit the ball, I noticed from the very first strike, it felt so familiar to me. It felt like something that was part of me because I'd grown up in paddle sports all my life, from tennis to squash to ping pong. I played every day of my life growing up. And the second I played and felt that honeycomb sort of board hit that ball and the court that felt so familiar to me, I was in love with it and I never stopped playing. And from then on, instead of looking for, waiting for a game to come, I immediately sought out where I could play near me. And the guy I found was none other than Rick Witzkin, and he and I developed a bond. And now we go back and forth in blood battles every morning, just fighting it out. And I still get him about 8 or 9 times. I still take him, but those other 7 times I pretend like they never happened.
Yeah, he's a tough guy to get around. He's big and he's fast.
Yeah, and he's not one to let it go when he won.
No, so I'm sure he's not. So let's talk about how that that beginning led you all the way to the part of where you're part of this ownership team for obviously the newly formed National Pickleball League, the Indy Drivers. So how did that happen?
Well, again, Rick Witzkin was sort of part of the story. I was hitting with him one day and he said, we're going to start this league. I said, Rick, I'd have an interest in that. I really would. He goes, good. You're our first commitment. What do you mean I'm your first commitment? So there I was, ready to play, ready to pay actually, to buy the team. And I went home to my wife and I just told the story at the draft the other day. I went home to my wife. I told her all about it. She was excited. About 2 beats later, she turned to me and she goes, are you sure you know what you're doing? And we got to the draft. We had to make announcements for our players. And she says to me, just don't say anything stupid. I hate to break it to you. That's sort of my whole game plan when I get up there. I don't really know what else to say at those things. So, but we bought the team and it just turned into one of those great moments in life that turns everything on a dime to a direction you weren't expecting, but also a whole new group of friends, a whole new sense of belonging, and a different purpose and something to do besides work, besides the everyday work life. And we just love it. And it's more ways that my wife and I bond on something else to work together. And we've got a great team too. We picked an outstanding
team. Yeah, you do. Yeah. So let's talk about let's get to that team you selected, because obviously it started with the combine and then went to the draft. So maybe talk a little bit about both of those experiences for you.
I think I even told Carl this in a separate, he was asking me questions for Pickleball World TV. And I remember him asking me, what I thought about the combine, and I just thought it was, the second I got there, I thought we might have something special here, and maybe even something historical. Um, Everybody that was there, I think, had a similar sense that I did when we hit. We were all former tennis lovers of tennis, and when we got involved, we remembered, hitting that ball was sort of like tennis of the 70s and 80s, has that similar feel. And I think that's why guys like Agassi really like it. But when we got there, and I must have scouted 200 players in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And I knew the players we wanted. And we were going for people that were both had a great personality, also entertaining, but had to be really gifted on the court. And I think we found 16 people that mesh very well. And of course, I'm playing on the team too. And I think it's going to be a great, great team. I may be number 17 out of 16 if that's possible, but I think we have a good team.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge. I mean, it's 16 people. That's like not, you don't have to pick 4 or 5 like they do in, Major League Pickleball. You got to pick basically 4 teams of people here and know a little bit is what you can about not only their game, but who they are as people. So in a relatively short period of time as well. So
I'm sure there's going to be times when we have to not just balance, or not just, manage players. You got to manage personalities, balance personalities, figure out who would be key to play when. And that's the challenge. But all of that is, part of the process. The whole process should be nothing but fun. And, there's a lot of money at stake. And if we win, but there's a lot more to gain even if we lose.
Yeah. And mentioning that really leads into what I want to talk about is because you mentioned the historical importance of it when we started talking about the combine and the draft, and talk a little bit more about that, what you mean by that, and maybe kind of, thinking about building something that you're leaving for people who are going to be 50 plus. There's a lot of these folks who are in their 40s, late 30s that, 5, 10, 15 years from now are going to be playing. So talk a little bit about that.
About people that'll be playing in this sport.
Well, kind of leaving a legacy. You guys are building something for people who aren't even in the league yet.
Well, I think that's one of the more fascinating parts of the whole process, because it is a relatively new sport. And as the legends of tomorrow become known to us from, guys like Ben Johns, Tyson McGuffin, it's a natural process to age. When they hit the age group that we are, they're going to be so well known, so sought after, and people are going to want to remember their favorite players and want to revisit those careers. Right. And this is a chance to have a second act in a career. Guys like McEnroe and Borg never had a second act in their career, but Connors did. Jimmy Connors. And I think that'll bode well for guys like McGuffin and Jack Foster and so forth. Obviously, Ben Johns. All those guys would love to have a second act, I'm sure. And what a great stage for that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you sort of have with that a built-in farm system, because you have all these people who will have established names, who will be entering your league with some clout and some credibility and some name recognition in brands. It's actually, I think, as this goes, I think it's going to get better for y'all, because you're starting now with people who are known, no doubt. But once this sport gets on national TV consistently, and you start bringing in the Ben Johns of the world and whoever decides they're going to play at 50, I can't imagine how this thing could, not succeed.
Well, look from your
stranger
mouth
things have happened.
From your mouth to God's action in ears. But I do believe that I think it'll have a lot of success, but by the time we get to that stage where those players come in, I think there'll be a lot more money, a lot more prestige. In fact, my wife and I were at the U.S. Open Sunday. I couldn't play. I'm still nursing a knee surgery, but we had a great time as spectators, and ran into some friends there and some foes that I've played many a time. And I went to one of the matches of this. I don't want to mention his name, but he's a top 10 player.
Okay.
And I definitely was courting him for future years, letting him know that he's got a home in the Indy Drivers. And
Right.
I think there was some interest on his part. And he was a smart young guy. He's smart enough to know that looks and age are only things that move along in life. And you're going to need a place to land. And I think he had a real interest in our league as he enters that.
Yeah, and I think, if anybody watched the Pickleball Slam with Macker, O'Connor, Chang, and the rest, that Agassi, he had a real interest at the end. He said he'd be playing pickleball as long as he could move around. And it was kind of mentioning that this is his new game. And maybe somebody like Agassi or Chang, who are both in their early 50s, be interested in the league, not only as participants, but maybe future owners as well. And that expands the league, obviously, in the other cities, other markets as well. So just throwing it out there.
And growing the league to 30 teams, I think guys like Agassi are probably going to want to buy a team. My wife and I and Rick Witzkin, we were at that match, and we were courtside. I had a great conversation with Sam Querrey, who is a pro. He was top 10 or 11 in the world in singles and tennis. I watched him at Wimbledon, watched him at U.S. Open, and then there I was watching him at the U.S. Open for pickleball. Right. And I thought it was a really exciting moment to see a guy like that of his stature come over to pickleball, and he hasn't broken the top 10 or come close to it, but he's awfully gifted and he might. But the fact that it's garnering the interest of so many people, Jack Sock,
right? Perfect example.
But you've got top players in the world in pickleball and tennis all merging to pickleball. It only bodes well for the sport.
Absolutely, yeah. It's unbelievable where this is going. I wake up daily and read headlines. I'm like, is this happening still? Like, what is going on with this game? It's just headline after headline and, new thing after new thing. So that being said, obviously, this is kind of pretty cool and new is y'all are playing your events at Chicken and Pickle, which if you want to go chill and have some food and some drink and watch some high-end pickleball, and I always tell folks if they've never seen professional pickleball at any level up close, it's a whole different ball game than watching it on YouTube or on a television. You get to see the speed and the skill, and in a venue where you can just relax and bring the kids and the family. Talk a little bit about doing, your partnership with Chicken and Pickle with the league.
They're an amazing partner. I mean, you talk about a company that's rising as quickly as pickleball as a sport. Chicken and Pickle is coming up as a company, and I had a nice opportunity to meet the guys at Chicken and Pickle at the draft. They were just great guys, so gracious to us. And these matches that we're having, competitions, are at several different Chicken and Pickles. You can't get much better of a partnership than what we have with them.
That's great.
And there are other, large sponsors wanting to come along, but I think we're always going to remember that Chicken and Pickle was there amongst the first.
Right.
Well, and when I got there at the draft, or not the draft, but the
combine, yeah.
Combine. Thank you. My vocabulary is leaving me late in the day. But when I got there, I couldn't believe the energy around that place. And even after the combine was finished, I stayed around just to check things out. It was around, I guess, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I walked around the whole facility. It was an absolute buzz of energy with ages, all age groups walking. I mean, there were high school kids playing, there were adults, there were grandparents. You couldn't find a better energy than what's going on at Chicken and Pickle. I can't wait till we get one here. There was one opening up here in Indianapolis, and that's going to be fun. We have a great spot called Pickle on Penn, also opening here in Indianapolis. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But Chicken and Pickle has been a partner unlike we could believe. I mean, just like nothing we could imagine.
That's awesome. And that's, talk about a really good combination. If you have a franchise that has that energy, and then you bring in the senior pros, and I watch a lot of senior pro ball, and I follow a lot of them on social media, obviously for the channel. And because that's my age group as well. I'll be 56. The community of the senior pros and the competitiveness, but at the end of the day, they're hanging out. They're kind of very family-like, and you're expanding that as the league begins here. And then you add that with the energy of Chicken and Pickle, I think these events, these 6 events, culminating in Glendale, are going to be off the hook. I mean, folks should come out and see it, because it's going to be like nothing they've ever actually seen, because this is a combination nobody's really seen.
Yeah. The difference probably in our pro league is that most people in this league, if not all, have accomplished or come to a certain place in life where they're a little more settled.
Right.
They're out there to have, we all reach our point in life where we start to recognize our own mortality and enjoy. And I think that was what came through so clearly at the combine and at these matches. I even got out there with some of the other senior pros and fellow league members and played while we were at the draft. We just had a ball. I mean, we had a great time, but the level of pickleball was very high, great games. But at the bottom line for us is we were having a great time. And I think that parlays really well to the audience. I think that's why TV audiences will enjoy it. You're not just tuning in to watch the energy that you might see in the MLP, but you're also tuning in to see the same energy in the NLP, along with the personalities and the sportsmanship that I don't think you'll find anywhere outside the NLP quite to the same level, because it's hard to capture that at other age groups. At ours, it's a lot more settled personalities and cemented personalities. And we're just there for making sure it's enjoyable both to us and the audience.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you're not, you're playing for a different motivation, like you mentioned. People aren't necessarily playing for a living. People have established themselves in the world. They've had careers. They've had athletic careers. And this is sort of, icing on the cake. But, make no joke, if you watch senior level play, Champions Tour play, it's high level, it's intense. There's some chirping going back and forth. But at the end of the day, folks are hanging out and having a few drinks and some food together. And that's really cool to see. So,
and there's a couple of senior pros that, that 2 of the top guys, Murcha, Paul, obviously you've got Rick Witzkin, but those guys are as well known in the pickleball world as just about anybody.
Right.
And I think Murcha and Paul are going to jump over, I would hope, in the next season. A lot of those names that are really have sort of been there in the finals and semifinals time and time again. To watch them play is really something.
Yeah, and I agree. Once they see where this thing's going in this league, I mean, if you just look at the combine and the draft, which the excitement level was electric, and we haven't even played really a league match yet. Those will be pretty cool to see. So, last question, and again, not really about wins and losses here, but any expectations of what to expect this season, starting in June, finishing up in October, of just the experience in general?
Well, I expect the Indy Drivers will win.
Yes, like it here, man.
Go Drivers.
Go Drivers. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Phil Cohn of the Indy Drivers. You get a chance, get out to a Chicken and Pickle this summer and see some National Pickleball League action. Until then, hey, let's pickle. New paddle company, Pickle, PCKL, great paddle line, great price points. Anything you want, from starter paddle to intermediate to a Pro Series high-level paddle. Check them out. Get 15% off using my discount code. Pickle. It's the future.